Hear that? You know what that means? It's break time. Take a break and find your next step. Spending this next 15 minutes, spending this next 15 minutes with the women here at Let's Talk W2W is a great way to spend your lunch, your break, whether you have stepped out of the office or sitting in your car, sitting out enjoying some of this hot weather if you're in Oklahoma. It's okay. It's break time, and I'm glad you're here. Today, we're going to talk about shrinking. Now, I'm not talking about dropping a few pounds or getting in shape. I'm talking about how we as women sometimes shrink when we walk into the room. So, we want to talk about how do we stop shrinking to fit in? And what do we need to do? Have you ever been in a room or a place where you walked in and you had to shrink? You felt yourself shrinking before you even got in the room. A lot of times we immediately start thinking about work, the office, because to be honest, that was one of the biggest places that I shrank, especially if you're a woman and you might not look like other women in the room, or if you're the only woman in the room. So before you can even get in the room, you already know maybe I'm only invited because I'm here to meet the status quo. And they really don't want to hear what I have to say. So we buy into that. Sometimes it's even when we're at home and we're being censored. Or maybe it's at a mother in law's house where we don't want to step on nobody's toes and we shrink before we get there. And then sometimes it's even when we step into our sister circles or we're around women that maybe they don't have the same experience as I have. I don't have the same education that they have, you know. So do I shrink to fit in, to meet their expectations? Have you ever walked into a room or been told before you even get in the room, you're a lot. Um, you you come across, big. You're a big personality. Um, and you believe that. Or, your presence takes up a lot of space and you believe that. Um, and it's okay. Sometimes nobody tells us to shrink. We learn to do it ourselves because we've already heard it so many times, or we feel like we have to dumb down. That's what the kids used to call it a couple of years ago. It was called dumbing down. We dumb down because one thing is because we want to be invited back. But sisters, let's remember, if we're at the table, it's because we've been invited to the table. We shrink our voices because we don't want to make nobody mad. We shrink our accomplishments. It wasn't really that big a deal when we know they should have put on the parade for us because we did something big, or we're not going to get the recognition anyway. So we just dumb it down. We shrink our expectations. Maybe this is just what my life is supposed to be. Hmm. How many of us have done that? If that's you, then pause. Pause. But here's the truth: you don't have to become smaller to make someone else comfortable. Connect, you don't. If I'm consistently shrinking myself, how can I see what's possible for me? This whole month, I told you last week on our last break that we were talking about possibilities. Think about what your life would be like if you stopped asking for permission to be who you already are. Let's find our next step here in the next few minutes while we're on break. I want you to think about one area in your life where you've been shrinking. Maybe it is in the office. Maybe it is in a relationship. Maybe it is when I walk into, you know, my mother-in-law's house, or when I'm sitting with my girlfriends, and it's an environment where we should be supporting and uplifting each other. But I got to shrink before I get in there because I can't share my big accomplishment this week because nobody's going to celebrate me. Or they're going to say, oh, we don't really want to hear what you have to say. So if I stopped worrying about what everyone else expects of me, what would I finish the sentence? Finish that sentence for us. You can put your comments below. If you stopped worrying about what everybody else thought when you walked into the room, what would you do? What would you say? What would you share? Then, now don't try to change your whole life today. We're not trying to do that. We only got 15 minutes. And I know for me, it took a whole lot longer. But I just want to leave you with something so that when you do walk back into the office, when you do go next time and you're sitting in your sister circle, that you speak up. You say no. You share your ideas. You make the call. You apply. You start to dream. I'm not asking you to become somebody you're not. And I'm not even encouraging that. The women here at Let's Talk W2W, we're about transparency. We're about encouragement. We're about supporting other women. We're about elevation. Yeah, because most of us have been those women too. I know I have. I sit in a meeting many times and I had the answers. I already walked in with the plan. I had already did the research and didn't speak up. Didn't say anything. Somebody else took my credit, especially if you've shared it with somebody. Oh, they gonna speak up and get your credit. This week, don't just ask, will anybody approve? Ask yourself, is this true to who I am and where I'm going? Is this me being my authentic self? You don't have to take up the whole room, but you do have to step. You do have to stop disappearing from your own life and from your talents, from your gifts, from who you're dreaming about being. Whether that's in the office, whether that's in your relationship, whether that's with friends or with family, start thinking about what's possible. Remember our question for this month: what becomes possible when I believe in myself again? What can I really do? Last week, we challenged the voice that said, you can't. Today, we're challenging the voice that says, maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I shouldn't walk into that room and shrink when I get in there. Maybe I shouldn't feel intimidated. Maybe I shouldn't keep it to myself, not share my experience, not share my thoughts, my creativity. Before you go back to work today, ladies, I want you to carry one question with you, and that is, where have I been making myself smaller just to fit in? Don't just think about it, write it down. And if today's conversation spoke to you, we've created the next steps in a short reflection to help you take this conversation with you. Leave a comment in the below. Leave your message in the below in the comments and just say, I'm ready for the next step. And we'll drop those off in your box. I'm going to see you next Wednesday. right back here on break, helping you to get ready to take the next steps. Because over here at Let's Talk W2W, that's what we do. And we love doing it with you. So it's time to get back in there, give it our best shot. Have a wonderful day. And remember, let's take a break and find the next step